All right, welcome and thank you for tuning in to episode 92 on the Healthy Runner podcast. And we are talking all about essential amino acids for running with a true expert in the protein research field. I'm very fortunate to have on the show a runner who himself has been running for over 60 years and has run an incredible 62 marathons in under 2 hours and 30 minutes during his lifetime. He is the director of the Center for Translational Research on Aging and Longevity at the University of Arkansas and has over 40 years of experience as a PhD researcher at several of the world's top universities and medical centers, including Harvard. Dr. Wolfe has published over 500 peer-reviewed papers and is widely respected as the world's foremost authority on amino acid nutrition, so much so that his research publications have been cited an impressive 75,000 plus times. It is such an honor to have you on the show today, Dr. Wolfe. Welcome and thank you for accepting this invitation.
Oh, wow. I'm pleased to be here, Duane, and look forward to it.
Yeah, so runners, what I want to know from you today is, do you ever feel fatigued? Are you not recovering between your hard workouts, whether it's after a long run, a tempo run, or an interval session, or even your gym strength workouts? Do you want to be able to focus and concentrate more on getting the most out of your workouts? Are you looking to get stronger and run longer? Have you ever wondered how much protein you should be taking to supplement your training, and if you should be supplementing with amino acids? In this episode, Dr. Wolfe is going to make us smarter runners so we can run for longevity and stay healthy along the way. He is going to answer some of the common questions that we get often within our healthy runner community, such as what are essential amino acids? What's the difference between essential amino acids and branch chain amino acids? What are the benefits of taking essential amino acids? And are essential amino acids good for running? So if you stick around to the end, I'm going to share with you how you can get a Healthy Runner special discount with our new partnership with the Amino company. So Dr. Wolfe, every episode, we start out with a little dynamic warm-up like we do before we go out for our runs. This is the first question that we ask all our guests. So tell the listeners, I know I gave a good little intro and background to who you are, but let us know kind of what do you do and, where are you located right now?
Well, Duane, I think probably your listeners are more interested in what my experience with running is than scientifically, but just a little bit of background to expand on what you said, that for about 30 years, I worked primarily at the Shriners Hospital for Severely Burned Children. And so in that context, developed nutritional and metabolic approaches to help children recover. And in that, from major burns, in the context of that, maybe as much as 70 to 80% third degree burns. And in that context, one of the major things that kids have a problem with is the recovery back to normal physical function. And so that really led me into research that expanded beyond just how to get the little kids back to function, but also how to improve muscle function in all sorts of circumstances that we find deficiencies, particularly now focused more on aging than severe injury. As far as my own background, though, it's always included running. I was a basketball player primarily growing up, and in fact, went to University of California, Berkeley as a basketball player. But I got into running sort of related to that. When I started high school, ninth grade, someone suggested that I go out for the cross country team to kind of get ready for basketball. And I did that. As I said, basketball player, I'm 6'5" and 200 pounds for most of my life. So I don't really have the classic build for running, but I really enjoyed the cross country. And when my basketball career was over, kind of kept going with the running. And really, so I'm 74 now, and that was when I was maybe 13, and I've really been a continual runner since that time. And as far as my running accomplishments, what I would say is that I was a pretty good runner, meaning that, I knew my limitations from my size and speed. We all have limitations, but I really enjoyed training hard and doing the best I can. And so in that sense, I think I can relate to pretty much everybody that has taken running fairly seriously, because I trained with everything from Olympic runners to guys that are just trying to get back in shape. And so I have a lot of experience, not only with my own running career, but with people that are trying to really achieve great things, and people that are just trying to get into it for the first time. So I think I have a pretty broad experience, and just finished interval workout yesterday. So it has been a true 60-year experience with running, and still, I was going to say going strong. I wish I was going strong, but still plugging away at it, be the way I describe it. So hopefully, I think my experiences can relate to all of your listeners.
Yeah, well, our passion here is definitely, getting stronger and, faster. We all want to get faster, right? So we can become lifelong runners. And I think you definitely have set the bar pretty high for us to try to strive and achieve to being that lifelong runner, with all that you've accomplished throughout your running career. And I'm kind of curious, with your kind of professional, scholarly, work and productivity, was any of that influenced by your kind of passion that you have for running?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I remember, when I first started in my professional career, as I said, I was at a hospital specifically for burn children, but we did research more broadly as well. But I had really not done much research related to exercise. And I remember, maybe mid 1970s, going to the American College of Sports Medicine meeting, because I wanted to learn more about the scientific basis of training. And specifically, what I wanted to know was whether it's better to run 2 workouts a day or 1 workout a day. And I thought, well, I'll certainly find out there. And I was really disappointed at what the level of scientific understanding of the best ways to train was when I went to this meeting, and sort of undertook, really, I wouldn't say a sidebar, but a kind of a little bit of a personal twist on my research to really figure out how to improve my own running. And I think that's been a driving force in a lot of my research. And one of the things I found very early in the going was that the guys in the gym and the guys that are out there running knew a lot more about it than the scientists. That the scientists are usually keeping up with the guys in the gym, and coming up with maybe a scientific basis for why what works actually works. And so I was really kind of determined to kind of extend that to where the science could really help me function and benefit in terms of improved running. So the two things have gone together, but definitely my personal passion for running has been a key factor in driving a lot of the research I've done.
I love that. Yes. And I would say, the same thing happened with my career path, as far as being like a physical therapist who kind of specialized in sports medicine and working with, kind of all athletes, to really now just honing in and becoming a run coach and just exclusively working with runners, because somewhat selfishly, I wanted to learn more about, right, how my own running would
Yeah.
get better. So I love that, your kind of research background and the things that you've done. You've actually implemented a lot of the training. What it feels like to feel fatigued, to get a hard workout in, to have to recover from workouts yourself, because you've put your body through those demands. You put your body through the demands of running many marathons, which we know how rigorous that can be on someone's body. So I just love that you have the practical application, as well as, obviously the scientific knowledge base as well. So if it's okay with you, let's get into kind of today's topic of essential amino acids. Why don't we just start, what are essential amino acids for those that don't know?
Well, as the name essential amino acids gives the tip off, they are essential nutrients. And in fact, they're the only nutrients in the body that the body requires for survival. You can do without carbohydrate intake, you can do without fat intake, but you can't do without the essential amino acids. So the proteins in our body are composed of amino acids. There are over 3,000 proteins in the body, and the specific number and profile of amino acids in a protein define that specific protein. But the amino acids are constantly being incorporated into new proteins while the old proteins are being broken down. And this is what we call protein turnover. And the reason we need to eat dietary proteins and essential amino acids is because the essential amino acids cannot be produced in the body. So that as old proteins are broken down, and we can think about muscle protein, although it's true for all the proteins in the body, as the muscle proteins are broken down and new ones that are better functioning are produced, that we have to have the availability of all the amino acids, all 21 amino acids that are used for body protein, to make new protein in the body. And there are 9 essential amino acids that cannot be produced within the body, so that you have to eat those essential amino acids to be able to produce complete proteins. So that on a normal diet, then some of the amino acids can actually be produced by metabolic pathways in the body, and we don't really need to eat a lot of them, the non-essential amino acids. The essential amino acids are the ones, including, well, I won't list them all, but there are 9 essential amino acids. And that the way that the quality of proteins is graded is on the basis of the number and the profile of the essential amino acids in the protein, so that we have to eat essential amino acids. The issue that we're really going to talk about and flush out today is not just whether or not you need essential amino acids, because you'll die if you don't eat essential amino acids, but really optimal amino acid nutrition in terms of the amount and profile of the essential amino acids, and the distinction between free essential amino acids versus the amino acids that you eat in the context of dietary protein. So I think that we can really can think about the essential amino acids as absolutely essential to our existence, and crucial aspects of the adaptation to training.
Okay. So I think, most runners are familiar with the concept of, 3 main components of like what they would use for their nutrition, of carbohydrates, fats and proteins. And so these essential amino acids are essentially components or building blocks of protein. Is that correct?
Correct.
And there's 9 of them?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Excellent.
There are 21 total dietary protein amino acids that are in dietary proteins. There are a lot more amino acids than that in theory, but the body uses 21, and 9 of which are essential.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you for the clarification there. And one thing that I have been kind of reading a lot about, really honestly, the last like 10 years, were these branched chain amino acids. And prior to my discovery of the amino company, I was always using branched chain amino acids to supplement my training, whether it's my running or my strength training. Can you talk about what the difference between essential amino acids and branched chain amino acids are? Because honestly, I didn't even know the difference prior to getting educated myself.
Yeah, sure. I think that the branched chain amino acids are leucine, isoleucine, and valine. And they are 3 of the 9 essential amino acids. And they're particularly leucine is a key essential amino acid, because in addition to the fact that it's the most abundant essential amino acid in muscle protein, it also has regulatory roles in terms of protein synthesis. Leucine can activate the whole process of the initiation of protein synthesis, so that it has key roles both in terms of a component of diet of your protein in your body, as well as a regulating amino acid. I think that the issue that needs to be clarified is that the essential amino acids include the branched chain amino acids, but if we're going to have an optimal nutrition, you need all of the essential amino acids. And I think just a little backdrop of how proteins are produced in the body makes it clear why you need all the essential amino acids and not just the branched chain amino acids. And that is that the proteins in the body are a long string of amino acids that are hooked together in a very specific order. when you get to after a particular amino acid, let's say lysine is the last one that's been included, and the next one up is leucine. If you don't have enough leucine in the cell, then it can't be added to that string of amino acids that is making a protein, and the synthesis will stop and the protein isn't produced. So you need to have all of the essential amino acids available. At any point during the process of hooking these amino acids together, you come to one that isn't there in enough abundance to produce the new protein. The process stops, and that's called the limiting amino acid. So that the leucine plays an important role, and the BCAAs are effective in initiating the process of protein synthesis. But without all of the essential amino acids, you will not be able to actually produce complete protein. So that the amino acids, the branched chain amino acids, do play an important role. And in particular, they can play a role in, and we'll talk a little bit later, I think, about the role in producing neurotransmitters that give you energy and prolong your focus while you're training, but by themselves do not promote net gain of muscle protein. They are not sufficient because you're missing other amino acids that are required for the production of new protein that become limiting. So that so the branched chains are important, and in the amino company products, they may constitute as much as 60% of the total profile, but without all of the essential amino acids, you can't produce intact proteins.
Okay, excellent. So from what I heard from that is definitely the essential amino acids are going to be basically, it's going to help improve that protein synthesis, that breakdown and build up, which is essentially going to affect our muscles as runners more so than, and it's going to be more effective than just using the 3 branched chain amino acids. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's important to understand the whole basic process of this so-called protein turnover, that as muscle fibers are used, get older, and maybe even in a strenuous workout, some are broken, that these old, not functioning well proteins are broken down and replaced with better, more rapidly firing muscle fibers. So that the main thing in running training that improves your performance is not a building up of muscle, but rather a faster turnover, so that the older proteins that aren't functioning as well are replaced by better functioning proteins that are newly produced. And in addition, we also know that the mitochondria in the muscle, where the energy is produced, the ATP to enable the muscles to contract, are also made of protein, and that we need to replace those amino acids with in the mitochondria as well, so that we can improve our energy production. So that in every aspect of running, turning over the protein, mainly meaning degrading the older proteins and replace them with new proteins, is a key aspect of training, and something that is the target of the enhanced function resulting from the essential amino acid consumption.
Excellent. Thank you for definitely tying that into running in our audience, because we talk about, frequently, most runners running too fast and not running slow enough during their easy kind of recovery runs in order to stimulate kind of the mitochondria and build up the aerobic capacity. So I could see the role where these essential amino acids help with that turnover with the mitochondria, as you mentioned. So I love that. And you kind of mentioned, it sounds like some benefits, but what are, if you kind of had to list the benefits of using or taking essential amino acids for supplementation, what would those be?
Well, just to comment on what you just said, just one of the things that's been kind of interesting since I've been running avidly since the 1960s is kind of seeing, the transition in the way people train over the time. And I think for me, one of the just this a little bit of an aside, but one of the biggest transitions for me was understanding the importance of slow running and to just get some mileage in between the hard workouts. Because in the 60s, we used to truly walk down to the track, put our spikes on, and start doing intervals. And we would do intervals. So when I ran on the track team at Cal, we did intervals as much as 4 or 5 times a week, and with a total mileage of maybe 5 miles for the entire week. And it was just such a breakthrough when I figured out that you really need to recover between hard workouts, and that the slow running really helps you develop the oxidative capacity and just the muscle and joint strength. But so I think we can think about that as kind of a crucial aspect of why amino acids are helpful, because they speed that process up in the context of replacing the worn out or damaged muscle fibers with new fibers. And so they really are crucial in helping to recover from hard workouts. Now, there's another aspect that is also quite important, and that is related to energy and running. And when you say energy and running, it's like, what do you actually mean? Because there's a lot of different interpretations. One is, of course, the biochemical energy. You need ATP produced in the body to fuel the contraction of muscle, and that comes from the oxidation of fat and carbohydrate. And we all know about glycogen and substrate energy metabolism. But from my experience, particularly related to why people sort of give up on training, particularly training hard, is there's another aspect of energy, and that's just having the energy after a day's work to then put on your running shoes and head out the door. And also, we know also that if you're running, that you always got something more in the tank. We always had a expression that when doing an interval workout, if you're doing 12 quarters, that, it's just making it through to 11, because you could always find the energy to run one more. And so fatigue is a funny thing. It's not just strictly the muscle fatigue. You're not running out of energy. You don't run out of fatty acids to oxidize. So what is it that causes you to feel that fatigue? And one of the major factors is the balance between the neurotransmitters of dopamine and serotonin. So dopamine is an excitatory neurotransmitter that gives you focus. It makes you feel alert and have energy, where serotonin is the converse. It's what you want to have high when you go to sleep at night. And it's kind of the old story of eating turkey that has a high level of tryptophan, because tryptophan is the precursor for serotonin, and that makes you sleepy and tired. So as to increase our energy, or our perception of how we feel during the exercise, we want to try to promote the production of dopamine and suppress the production of serotonin. And we accomplish this by the profile of the amino acids, because the dopamine and the serotonin are products of amino acids. But by manipulating the profile of the amino acids, we're able to facilitate the amino acids that are precursors for the production of dopamine and suppress the serotonin. So there's really two aspects of the energy. We have the energy that comes from mitochondria production, that the protein turnover is important, and the muscle fiber function is important with the protein turnover. But we also have the energy just to get out, to do the run while you're running, to keep your energy up. And this is a function of our neurotransmitter production. And the free amino acids and the essential amino acids are really the only way we're able to manipulate this production of, or balance between, the dopamine and serotonin. So there's really two reasons we're taking amino acids in relation to running. One is related to this whole concept of protein turnover, but the other is to actually just maintain our energy and focus throughout the course of a workout.
Excellent. Thank you for summarizing that at the end for those that may have gotten lost in some of the scientific detail, which I am just geeking out on, by the way. So I'm loving this conversation. But so really, we're looking at kind of recovery wise as well as energy. And, you kind of alluded to the fact that you already alluded to the fact that this is, yes, going to help you as a runner, because those are two important components of what we do as running. Are there any other, benefits or usage for runners that besides this kind of protein turnover or recovery as well as energy?
Yeah, I think one of the other things that's proven to be not a big factor, but definitely an issue, is that the process of the protein turnover that's stimulated by the essential amino acids uses energy. And as a result, your total energy expenditure as you take these essential amino acids goes up. And we've done 3 or 4 different studies showing that that you get, and not a large amount, but that you do get some increased utilization of fatty acids and sparing of muscle protein with increased protein turnover. So that particularly if you're trying to run for the purpose of shedding a few pounds, you actually increase your energy expenditure by the process of protein turnover. And when you take the essential amino acids, we've shown that the retention of muscle and loss of body fat is favored, as opposed to not having the extra essential amino acids stimulating the protein turnover. So that as far as weight maintenance, that we actually get an increase in energy expenditure that's just about as much or almost equal to the amount of energy that you're eating or calories that you're eating in the context of the amino acids, and that they're really a great way to enhance your ability to shed a few pounds.
Okay, excellent. That's another added benefit, for sure. So if this is, beneficial for running, when would be the ideal time to take amino acids? Would you take these before you're running or after you're running?
Well, there's a long history of research on exactly when to take carbohydrate if you're going to take it before running, because you don't want to bottom out and have the hypoglycemia after, if you take it too soon or too much or whatever. And you don't have to worry about that with amino acids, because there's no adverse effects, there's no bottoming out. So it's not as crucial. But the big advantage of the free amino acids and the essential amino acid mixtures, as opposed to dietary protein, is that they're absorbed very rapidly. So that you don't have to, you can take them before exercise. And what I recommend and what I have found from our research is that 45 minutes to 30 minutes before exercise is really the optimal time, because then you get fully absorbed before you ever start your run, and you have the effect last for at least a couple of hours. So unless you're really going to be grinding out a long workout, you get the effect. I don't take any amino acids during exercise. I find that that with taking them before you start, that the levels will be maintained high enough to accomplish their action throughout exercise. And then after the exercise is over, taking more amino acids, because that's when the muscles are really juiced up to increase their new synthesis of proteins and clearing out the damage from the broken down proteins. So that really the optimal is to take a mixture prior to exercise that really enhances your focus and your energy level, and then following exercise, a mixture that's a little more targeted towards rebuilding new protein.
Okay, excellent. And those, how much is the recommended dosage of amino acids? Like how many milligrams should one take? Can you take too much of this stuff?
No, that's one of the aspects that's really a benefit of having using something that are just required nutrients in the body. That in fact you can eat much more essential amino acids than you would ever want to or need to, so that you don't have to worry about adverse effects. The recommended dosage is really something that you can kind of experiment with. As few as 3 grams will give you some increase in energy and some increase in protein synthesis, but up to 15 grams will give you a linear increase in the protein synthesis response. So that so it really depends, on what your goals are, how much you like taking it, and so forth. I think that the minimum is 3 grams, but the optimal is going to be about 5 to 6 grams of the essential mixture prior to exercise, and then at least that amount following exercise. In fact, if you're really recovering from injury and you're using a product to help recover from injury, the best approach is to take a dose of about 5 or 6 grams, and then an hour later take another dose. That the peak amino acid levels are reached very quickly, and that's important in activating the whole process of protein turnover. But if you go too high, then they'll be just oxidized for energy and they won't be as useful. So that there's no danger in taking too much, but there is a limit to how effective large doses will be. So in that context, it's probably a little better to take 5 or 6 grams twice rather than one giant dose. But you won't have any harm if you'd rather take one bigger dose. So it's kind of a fluid situation. The more you take, the more the effect, but the more it costs, and the more you're drinking the amino acids all the time. So it's kind of a personal thing, really, but you have to take at least 3 grams to get a real effect.
Okay. All right. No, that's definitely helpful. And you kind of alluded to the fact that, yeah, these are safe because essentially these amino acids are produced by our body. It's not something that's external, or it's not a chemical. This is completely safe for us to take and ingest for running.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And in fact, just correct the one thing you said is that they are utilized by the body, they're required by the body, but the essentials are not actually produced in the body. They're in the components of the protein that we eat. So that the way you normally are eating the dietary protein, that's how you normally get your essential amino acids. But the difference between the dietary protein, like a whey protein, and the essential amino acids is that the protein has to be digested, and then in the process of digesting, the essential amino acids are transported into the blood by specific transporters that carry them from the intestines into the blood, where the free essential amino acids are immediately absorbed directly, just like glucose is, so that you reach much higher levels for a shorter period of time. And this turns out to be a crucial plus, because those higher levels trigger the whole process of protein synthesis in a way that dietary protein doesn't. So that one of the questions I'm asked quite frequently is, well, can't you just eat more dietary protein? I eat plenty of dietary protein. What do I need the amino acids for? And the fact is, you do need them. That no matter how much dietary protein you eat, you're not going to get the same kind of peak level that triggers all the biochemical responses within the muscle that activate the whole process of protein synthesis. So a healthy amount of dietary protein is important, but really quite different in a sense than the essential amino acids, because you don't get enough to trigger the mTOR and all the molecular pathways in the body that are part of the whole process of protein turnover.
All right. So, really consuming those essential amino acids are going to be more efficient for our bodies to be able to do what we want it to do with the essential amino acids, as opposed to just having a bunch of chicken or a bunch of steak after my workout.
Absolutely. That's really a key for runners, because I know that, for most of my life, I ran to and from work, and it was always a problem, running home from work, because I'd get, particularly when I was younger and really working late, I get home and, you're really not that hungry after a long run. And I mean, you eventually get hungry, but I would go to bed hungry, and or not really hungry, but not having eaten a lot relative to the number of calories I'd done. And I got into a thing which I still do today, of getting up in the middle of the night and eating, because, it's taken that long for the, kind of the feeling from the running to subside, and you feel like eating. the thing with the amino acids is that they're absorbed so quickly that you don't need to eat all that dietary protein to get the same effect of a very small amount. When I say you get an effect of 3 grams of essential amino acids, realize that would be like half an ounce of steak. So that to get the same kind of effect, if you even can get the same kind of effect, you really need to eat a lot of protein like fish and meat and chicken and so forth, more so than most runners are really going to be comfortable eating. And that's why the free amino acids really provide something that is above and beyond what you're going to eat with the dietary intake of protein.
Okay. Now, thank you so much for giving us kind of the background on essential amino acids and their benefits and what they exactly are. Are they safe for us to take? And, I first got introduced to you on Claire Bartholic is a friend of our podcast, and I've been on her show before, Run to the Top. And I heard your interview during my run, and I was very intrigued by what you had to say about amino acids and even the quality of amino acids that are out there on the market, and hence why I started using the Amino company. Can you talk a little bit about the various products that the Amino company has, and then what makes what is actually in the product, safe for us to ingest, and what are the differences by, some of those that are out there on the market or amino acids that are produced elsewhere throughout the world?
Well, I'll focus on the products that I'm familiar with the Amino company because I hold the patents on most of these products. Relative to running, there's 2 or 3 potential products. The most important one for pre-workout, or if you want to take it during workout, is called Perform. And that is primarily predicated on what I mentioned as far as promoting the ratio of dopamine to serotonin. So it's primarily the primary goal of what's called Perform is to give you mental alertness and focus throughout your workout with a balanced mixture of essentials that will also promote protein turnover, but that's really a secondary sort of benefit of that. It's not the primary. The primary action of the profile of the amino acids in Perform is to enhance your workout. Following workouts, you can use one of 2 products. One is called Heal, which is a different mixture that is specifically focused on promoting protein synthesis. And this was derived really from my experience in recovery from serious injury and surgery and other kind of debilitating circumstances where the peak, as I mentioned, the free amino acids give you a high peak that activate the whole process, but then they do fall back down to lower levels fairly quickly. Heal has a combination of the free amino acids in the optimal profile to stimulate protein synthesis, but also has some whey protein to sustain that effect for a longer period of time. And the alternative, which if you're not really focused on, don't want to have the whey protein, there's another product called Life, which is really derived primarily for improving physical performance in older individuals. But as far as runners, it still promotes protein synthesis quite effectively. That's how it works in older individuals as well. So that it's not really as optimal as Heal for the post-recovery, but it will still suffice. And both of those products are designed to promote protein synthesis, which we need in the recovery process. So for my own routine, I take 2 scoopfuls of Perform about a half an hour before running, and then a scoopful of the Heal immediately following the workout, and then another scoop about an hour later. The only thing I'll say about other products would be that there is quite a range of processes of production. And that's one of the things that has been very frustrating being a scientist. And I know that my goal from the outset was to produce products that had a scientific basis and that would be, not just wishful thinking, but actual demonstrated benefits. it never really occurred to me that a lot of the products that are on the market actually don't have what they claim to have in the actual product. And unfortunately, that is something which plagues the market quite a bit. And that's why it really pays to stick with a product that you know has been rigorously controlled as to how it's been produced, and to account for the things we've talked about today, as far as what are you actually trying to accomplish with your amino acid supplement, and look at the specifics, because there are all sorts of different mixtures, and I think that you really have to educate yourself a little bit about what are these different formulations, what do they accomplish, how much do I know about the company, can we really be sure that we're getting what we think we're getting, and those are the reasons, of course, why I'm enthusiastic about the Amino company products, and there are probably other products that are also effective for sure, but my general advice is to kind of take what I've highlighted today and really kind of digest it a little and figure out for yourself what the most effective program is.
Pun intended there with digestion. I like how you got that in there. No, that's very helpful, and I thank you for providing kind of the guidance on the difference in, the Perform product to have as like a pre-workout, and then the Heal product is going to be something after your workout, and then the Life product as well. And I know you had mentioned, some injuries or surgeries you had. We talk a lot about overcoming some of those and kind of getting back to running after those injuries. Do you mind sharing any either words of wisdom or experience, or even the type of injuries, if you don't mind sharing with our listeners, that you can provide them?
Yeah, well, that's really I've gone through probably 30 running partners in my day. And I think that the most consistent thing that shelves people is they doing pretty well, making improvement. Injury of some sort is inevitable. And it's so discouraging coming back from an injury that they give up. And I certainly have my experience. I've had 7 different orthopedic surgeries, and the most recent being a total hip replacement. And after every one, they weren't all related to running. I had a knee problem that was that happened when I was skiing, and it's interesting because the surgeon said, "Well, you certainly won't be able to run after this," and that was 30 years ago. So and that absolutely was the case after the back surgery and the hip replacement. And it's just the thing that I think I just wish that these amino products were available, because the only operation that they're available for was the hip surgery. And that's something which, again, the surgeon, as well as reading, people talked about maybe you could get back, but it's going to be a big challenge. And that was about 10 years ago. Within 3 or 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years after the hip replacement, I ran another marathon. And like I said, I just ran intervals yesterday. And I think that the acceleration of the protein turnover and the recovery of function really helps, not only physically, but it gives you more energy, and you just don't feel as discouraged. That stretch following a severe injury, where you're trying to just gradually get back, can be so demoralizing. And I think that's where something like Perform, to kind of juice you up enough to get you out the door and to plug away at it, is really the value can't be overstated, because it absolutely is so discouraging to come back from a major operation. But if you're going to be a lifetime runner, you're going to have injuries. I mean, that is inevitable. And, you just can't, every doctor I've ever taken an injury to has said, well, you probably should stop running. I was, well, that's not the point, that's not an option. So, how am I going to keep running? That's really the question. And, you have to think in those terms. Don't listen to anybody say this is the end of your running, because it rarely is. You just have to have a real focus on recovery to just stick with the tough times following. the surgery or the injury, and realize that if you stick with it, you'll eventually get back to where you were.
Oh, I love it. And you are speaking my language because we're all about staying active, staying healthy, and just keep running, right? Like,
Yeah.
despite whatever setback you have, despite whatever injury. And thank you for sharing your personal kind of journey with your, spine surgery and your total hip. Yeah, I've had many clients that have come back from a total hip replacement and been able to get back to running. And I think, you're a true life example of someone who has kind of busted all those previous myths about running and injuries. And even you were doing some of that stuff long before folks like me were trying to spread this message and educate the public. So thank you for sharing that. I know last question, we're kind of getting down to the final stretch here, is if you could change one thing about the misconception of amino acids or protein for running, what would that be?
Without a doubt, the concept that that amino acid nutrition or supplementation for running does not build bulky muscles. It improves your strength, it improves your function, but as long as you're doing the running along with the amino acids, that's where the target of the amino acid supplementation is. It's on function, it's on energy, it's not on building muscle mass. That requires a resistance exercise and specific kind of exercises that build muscle mass. And if you're trying to build muscle mass, the aminos will certainly help. But if you're purely interested in running function, the aminos will absolutely help your running without adding extra weight that you got to carry around.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for clarifying that. And for those who really enjoyed this episode on the podcast and they want to learn more, whether it's about amino acids or some of your previous, research and scholarship, where would be the best place to kind of direct them to?
Well, I think that the Amino Company webpage has quite a bit of information. I also have a book that I wrote that's called A Guide to Amino Acid and Protein Nutrition, which is really targeting a lot of the things we've talked about today to be explained to this, what I call the educated consumer. So that, in the case of runners, guys and women that are really enthusiastic about the running, but also really want to maximize their abilities, that provides a little more than just the basics, but goes into more of the physiology and why you want to be, what your goal in accomplishing, what you're trying to accomplish with amino acid supplementation. So that's available on Amazon. If you look under my name and Amazon, you can get that available. But I think that the Amino Company has done a pretty good job of highlighting a lot of the aspects of that book. So if you look on that webpage, it's got a lot of information that will be quite helpful, I think.
Excellent. And yeah, I have, speaking from personal experience, I've always valued, the use of amino acids to supplement my strength training and my running for years. But honestly, have never really found a product quite like the Amino Company's Perform. The product's clean. I love that it's backed by real science and scientists like yourself, who've actually done real research, and I can trust that, what I'm putting in my body is actually what it should be, that I'm putting in my body. And I just honestly have loved the mental focus and concentration that, it's given me for my hard gym workouts and my speed work sessions. And honestly, I've even noticed an improved recovery time between my workouts since I've started using Perform essential amino acids. So I can't say enough good things about the product. The taste of it is just amazing. Like I have the blue raspberry flavor, and it just really helps me, honestly, get stronger, faster, and become like, I want to grow up to be like you one day, Dr. Wolfe, right? Like I want to be running, I want to run despite any surgeries that I get. it was just honestly a natural fit. When I reached out to the Amino company in kind of partnering up, and, you guys have been really nice enough and gracious enough to offer our listeners a nice, healthy runner discount of 30% off, using the actual Healthy Runner discount code. If you go to aminoco.com/healthy runner. And I will definitely drop that link in the show notes to the podcast and on the YouTube video. So you guys can go check out the products that Dr. Wolfe talked about, check out the products that I believe in and I've been using myself. That has really honestly gotten me through my hardest training cycle I've ever had as a runner. And I do think that a lot of it is because of what I've been, using with my essential amino acid supplementation. So I wanted to bring Dr. Wolfe on today for the show to kind of really get the true experts, take, and not just, trying to kind of push a product or, having someone come on that was, on a sales or a marketing team. I wanted to bring you like the real scientist because you know how much I value that. And we usually talk about, running injuries and what is the latest evidence for Achilles tendinopathy or hamstring tendon pain in runners. But, I think all of the information you provided us today on amino acid supplementation and what it actually does for us as runners has been extremely helpful. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your expertise with us, Dr. Wolfe.
Well, you're welcome. It's been fun and time has flown. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you again. And remember, guys, every week we do podcast episodes talking about all things health and running for longevity in running. And if you tune into our Healthy Runner Facebook group, you will get the latest topics and what we have lined up for you. So thank you guys again. As always, remember, let's stay active, let's stay healthy, and let's just keep on running. Until next time.